Let the record show tonight, above all, show what we can do when we come together in this city and we build around positivity, around opportunity, and all the things that tie us together rather than those things that keep us apart.
James Farr here, live from Pasadena Media Studios. Get ready for more piercing and provocative. The Conversation Live starts now. Welcome to another episode of The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. Coming up today on The Conversation Live, we're going to have a piercing and possibly uncomfortable conversation. Mayoral candidate Jason Hardin is in the seat. I want to talk with Jason about why he wants to be the next mayor of Pasadena, California, what he's learned from his last bid to be the mayor of Pasadena, California. Also, some of the challenges he's had, and then as well as we'll look at the film that he produced with his partner, Steve Snead. But first, let's take a look at all of the candidates, and then we'll welcome Jason back on the other side.
Let's go to local briefs. Check this out. You said Elizabeth Warren. I just killed the whole conversation for me.
October 18, 2019. Councilmember Victor Gordo, marketing executive Major Williams, and local businessman Jason Hardin are in the race to run against Mayor Terry Turnick in the 2020 election. Under Turnick, who was elected in 2015, the city has seen minimum wage increase, the ending of the 710 freeway extension, and a tax increase that saved the PUSD from a county takeover. Hardin, a local businessman, lost to Turnick in 2015 with less than 1% of the vote. Gordo, endorsed by former Mayor Bill Bogart, has been critical of developers and the current housing crisis. Williams believes that the current mindset is in need of change. The mayoral election is slated to take place March 3rd, 2020.
And welcome back. Jason, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Man, thanks so much for being here, man. Like I said, I've you know, before we even really knew each other, I watched how you move. You know what I mean? Just, really? You were very active in the community, always outspoken about issues, front line of stuff. And so now you're making this bid to become the mayor. Yeah. Again, why?
For me, I think it's more of a need more than a want, because I just feel that, as you stated about your show, inclusion. You know, I feel that we should be included, and by we, I mean some of the people who don't have the resources, maybe the money, maybe the security that some other folks have in this city. And for leadership, I think leadership has to be in touch with the common residents of Pasadena, and that's what I want to bring to the leadership of Pasadena.
Okay. Now, your passion, you know, and I also kind of want to back up your story, because some people may not be familiar with who Jason Hardin is. You know, you spent some time in the San Francisco Bay Area in your younger life, as well as here in Pasadena. I read that you at one time were homeless. At one time that the only shelter you could find was riding that number 2 bus all the way to Santa Monica.
Yeah.
How has that kind of shaped you? You know, who is Jason? Because people may have their own perception. You know, I really want to understand what life of a boss is, because that's you always hit that hashtag. So who is that person?
Basically, I'm a person that's been through a lot, and I've overcome a lot. So if I can be defined in one word, I guess it would be resilience. You know, I've been homeless. I've seen my parents do drugs. I've come up in a household full of abuse on many different levels. And I learned a lot. And I believe that has shaped my love for life, my appreciation for even just being here, because like I said, I've had cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer at 6 months old. I wasn't expected to live past 3 years old. So to a certain degree, it feels like I'm still on borrowed time, you know? So I try to make the most of my time here, and I try to make the most of what I've been through, because I believe if I don't do something with my life, if I don't do something positive, if I don't share in some way what I've learned from my hardships, that all those were for nothing, you know? And I don't want any of the things I've been through to be for nothing.
Now, entrepreneurship is something that you I mean, like I said, life over boss. And from your magazine publications to your apparel, which is really more of a lifestyle and kind of just brings, I think what's cool about it is, Steve told me I earned the right to say Made in Dina now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
But it really like just crosses so many different boundaries and neighborhoods, people, cross-section of things. What is Made in Dina? I don't, in case somebody doesn't understand.
Made in Dina is more than just a clothing brand to me. Made in Dina is my appreciation and my love for all the worthy things that come out of Pasadena. All the exemplary people, organizations, businesses, products, talent. Everything that brings value to the city culturally is what that was for. You know, I appreciate those things, and I wanted to highlight the things that I respect so much about this city, because from a global perspective, we're only known for Rose Parades and Rose Bowl games. But for the people that live here, we're so much more. And for the industry, for economics, for space, for education, we have a lot of things going on, and we're very influential globally, but people don't really know that. So I wanted to kind of shed light on that, and that's what Made in Dina was.
Man, what was that moment like the first time you saw somebody just like out and about wearing your brand, wearing something that you created, something that you, you know, had the guts, you know, just to put it out there. You know, you don't know if somebody was gonna buy it or like it or not, but you just, you did it. What was that experience like?
I think it's always an interesting experience when I see somebody that I've never met before, don't know at all, wearing my product. And what it just shows me is that everything is a cycle. You know, I mean, there's life cycles, and there's what goes around comes around type thing. So I think that it just reflects that if you put positive stuff out there, positive things are going to come back. And that's really what it represents to me when I see somebody that I've never met or don't even know how they got it, but I know that they probably got it from someone I know through a website or something. And it's just a good feeling, because it just lets me know that if you execute on your ideas and really just follow through, that you never know what can happen.
And I know there's a backstory as to how this even came about, because I had Sneed on here before. Let me check in. You're watching The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. My guest today is Jason Hardin. Jason is running for mayor of Pasadena, California. Jason is a former senior commissioner here in the city, and he's also very active here in our city. Gang violence is something that happens in Pasadena, right?
Absolutely.
It's not what it used to be, but it's still something that's very prevalent. And, you know, just a few years back, there was a huge uptick. But you and your partners and y'all brothers, I mean, I like how a creative collective of guys came together, and in some respects self-taught themselves some things, and others, they just used their raw talent and gumption. You know, you guys building studios and all this other stuff. But let's take a look at this, a quick clip from the film that you co-produced, Pasadena Solutions, Exploring Solutions to End Gang Violence.
Living a reckless lifestyle of violence and dysfunction, there's consequences to that. So you're going to experience incarceration, you're going to experience death, you're going to experience hardships. That's part of the lifestyle.
My uncles, my cousins, my family was banged out at an early age, man. I remember being a young kid and seeing people getting dragged out of my living room with a pistol to the brain because they wanted to make sure that they weren't snitching and giving evidence on my other family members that were still selling drugs.
You know, you were either going to be a target or you were going to hang with those that were going to protect you. And so, you know, I rode a tough bus, and so I became a Crip.
I was in a banger at first. I just wanted to work on cars, you know what I mean? But where I grew up at, guys knew I knew how to fight. So they wanted me to be from, you know, that area, and I wasn't with it. They started jumping me, start getting hit with bats and poles or whatever. So I'm like, you know what? It's time to turn up.
The way these issues are looked at is if they're a gang, and that makes them no longer a human. We dehumanize those people. They're gang members. Where they're not even people. They're people. They're people first.
Welcome back. Why did you guys produce this film?
The need was there. And on top of the need being there, me and Stephen and I, we graduated from Pasadena High School, class of '98. I met Stephen in 1995 when I first got to Pasadena and first got to Pasadena High School. And since the very first day of school, I realized that Pasadena was a gang-impacted city. And being submerged in such a gang-impacted city, you see a lot. And I've seen a lot. Like, for my very first year in Pasadena, I lost a friend. Charles Brown, he got killed my very first year of high school, well, actually sophomore year. He got killed coming home from a football game. And sad, but that was just the first. You know, it didn't stop after that. It didn't stop the next year. It didn't stop when I graduated. It didn't stop 5 years after I graduated. I'm still losing friends to gang violence in Pasadena. And it's true that the culture have changed a little bit, but it's still very real, very present, and very destructive to our community. So we wanted to create some type of learning tool using our talents, because we're all producers in some way. You know, I'm a graphic artist, I edit videos.
Photographer, I mean, you do it all.
Yeah, I'd be here all day listing what we do, but we wanted to turn our passion and our art and the things we do creatively into a tool that can actually be used and actually bring those perspectives in those meetings and in those areas where those perspectives aren't even heard or present. And
how did you manage to, you know, because either you join a gang, you gang affiliate, or you straight square. Which path did you walk?
Me, I was never a gang affiliate. It never drew an interest. I've always been a hustler. As a youngster, I've always been entrepreneur-minded, and I never thought it was necessary personally to be in a gang to make money. And I think that's what kept me from being in a gang. I know there's a lot of folks who join gangs, you know, to sell drugs and things like that, but that being an entrepreneur didn't require being in a gang. So for me, it was just not an option. It wasn't a benefit to it. You know, I had a lot of friends that were heavily gang impacted. They were actually gang members and whatnot. But I guess me and my close friends never got into it because we had each other. And though we weren't a gang, we were a family. We were brothers, and we had each other's back, and that was enough.
What did you learn, you know, as a result of producing this film? Because you guys have screened it at Westerback Recital Hall, at PCC. You've done in-home screenings with various people. You've done screenings all throughout the city. I mean, at the Playhouse, was it Limley? What was it like seeing it? Because I was there, but what was it like for you to see your work on that giant screen?
It was really an amazing experience. I think when I first saw it in the theaters, at the Lemley Theater when we premiered it last year, it immediately turned from a gang film, from a gang instructional tool, to a community film. Watching it in theaters with community members, with police officers, ex-gang members, service providers, neighbors, friends, family, watching Pasadena on the big screen. And we always see Pasadena on the big screen. They film movies here every day, but we never see Pasadena on the big screen as Pasadena.
Yeah, because I remember when you guys screened it at the library, Central Library, and somebody in the audience, I mean, was just crying. I mean, it impacted her so much, and you know, it wasn't a large crowd, but it was just the raw emotion that the film brought us. So if you guys haven't seen the film, make sure you check it out. Let me check in real quick, Jason, because we want to transition and power through this. You're watching The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. My guest today is Jason Hardin. Jason is an entrepreneur, a magazine publisher, as well as he's running for mayor here in Pasadena in the 2020 election. I want to talk about your past election process.
No problem.
Let's roll in this clip, Hannah, of Jason in an interview with our friends over at Crown City News.
It's going to serve you if you were to become mayor?
Well, I think the challenges that I've been through in life actually gives me the experience that the other candidates don't have. I believe that you have to be in touch with the common citizen of Pasadena, and I think I relate to more people in Pasadena than my counterparts.
Yeah, what do you think are some of the key issues facing the city of Pasadena that you'd want to address if you were elected mayor?
Definitely public safety. The rise in violence in my community, particularly the Northwest, that has to be addressed. I believe that we have to offer more services and resources to the folks that need them most. And as mayor, I plan to connect the citizens that are in most need of these services to the resources that are available.
You know, just recently with the number of shootings that happened in the area, gang-related shootings, and now it's coming out that the city isn't able to recruit as many police officers. What do you think the city needs to do to address this?
And welcome back. I want to talk policy. Like, if you are the next mayor of Pasadena, what's going to make you different? Let's couch that in that you're not a wealthy entrepreneur. You know, you're not super uber rich. Some would say that being the mayor is a rich man's job. What's going to be different if you're the mayor? What are the policies that you stand for?
I think the difference, we'll start there, the difference is my perspective. I believe a lot of people tell me that maybe I don't have experience to be a good mayor, or I don't have that political experience, and I would say that that political experience would only make me just like what we've been had. You know, I think it's experience that I have that would make a better mayor. You know, the homelessness, the challenges, the not having money. And to be honest, like I said, even now, if you're not owning a home, we're all at risk of being homeless in Pasadena.
Sure.
And I think that, like I said, relating to more of the problems on a ground level makes me more equipped to deal with it. Because it's hard to have leadership full of people who don't relate and who make decisions and don't have to feel the repercussions of those decisions.
So last Monday, the City Council unanimously passed a moratorium that caps rent at 5%, consistent with AB 1482 plus index. 3, 4, 5, 18 months ago, there was no appetite for rent control here in the city. Do you think the council members and the mayor are just placating because it's election season? Or what do you think? What do you think changed? You know, what was the pendulum that swung that way?
I think absolutely the public input definitely weighed heavy. So even if it wasn't election year, I would hope that that was enough to persuade them to vote for it. But outside of that, of course, it's election year. You know, everybody. I tell folks all the time that if you want something done by a politician, ask them while they're running. Don't expect them to do it when it's over.
Okay. And I know police oversight was something that you were concerned about. Are you still be willing to champion putting forth a police oversight commission here in the city?
Absolutely. You know, I definitely believe there should be some type of police department commission. You know, we have commissions on everything from parking to libraries. Man, we need to have something on commission. And going back to your last question, I do believe we need a housing commission, not necessarily an affordable housing commission, but an absolute housing commission to address all the housing needs and opportunities, whether it be homelessness, whether it be new development, whether it be affordable housing. So I believe those two commissions would be my main focus. You know, I think the first thing I would do as mayor would agendize a reassessment of our inclusionary housing ordinance. You know, I think that we can actually create more of a stock of our affordable housing if we just make that one ordinance stronger. Instead of 15%, we should require 20% minimum. And we should also reassess the in lieu fee. How is that in lieu fee calculated? Because I think that developers that opt out, they're not paying something that's going to actually create for new housing. What they're paying doesn't offset the housing that they're not providing. So I think we should look at that ordinance, and that'll be the first thing that I would do.
Okay. Let me check in real quick. You're watching The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. My guest today is Jason Hardin. Jason is running to be the next mayor of the city of Pasadena. He's a local guy, very active and involved in the community. Hannah, let's cue up this other thing. I want to, you know, I talked with a couple of people about you and what got their opinion, both on my show as well as on another show. Let's take a look at this clip and we'll catch up with Jason on the other side. Go ahead, Jared, let's pull up Jason Hardin. You know Jason.
I know Jason.
You've seen Jason in the community and the work that he's done. Is Jason ready for leadership here in the city?
I like Jason. I think his documentary on Pasadena Altadena was off the charts great. His heart is in the right place. I would like to see Jason get a little more experience. I know he was on the commission last year. I'd like to see him get more involved in Pasadena. There are places for Jason Hardin in Pasadena, but I think that he needs a little more experience.
Okay.
So as far as Jason goes, whatever he did last time, don't do it that way again. Do everything different. take some policy stance that are serious. A lot of people, and there are 5 people running for running against council members.
And welcome back. What are you going to do different this time around?
I think my time on the commission gave me the experience to be a little more concise with what I'm trying to create. I'm a little more familiar with the process of actually sitting on a dais and going through some of these issues. Definitely take a stronger stance on the positions, as Mr. Coleman said, because I think my first time I was very general with what I wanted, very general on what I wanted to see happen. And now I actually know how to make those happen and how I could use my vote, my I guess, influence as mayor or just as a public figure to get those things done in a realistic way. And I believe that's the difference now.
I want to talk to you, Jason, about a serious situation, and you know, it's on your front-facing website. I mean, you've certainly not shied about talking about it, but you had a situation a few years ago where you ended up pleading on a case, a domestic violence case. What happened? How did that happen? What happened? What do you want to say about that? Because I think what we read online may not be representative entirely of the situation. So I wanted to make sure that we at least touched on it if you're comfortable talking about it.
I'm comfortable. It might take more than 6 minutes we got, but basically I could just summarize it by saying it was absolutely the worst experience I've ever been through in my life. I've been through a lot of horrible experiences. Nothing quite as horrible as that in modern day.
Why'd you cop the plea?
Because I did not, it was a no contest plea for just that. It was no contest. I didn't feel I could fight a case from inside jail. I didn't have money for a lawyer. I didn't have money for bail. And a lot of things happen when you just don't have the funds and you're caught up in the system.
Sure.
I had a commission meeting that Tuesday. I had to host an event for the Salvation Army that Friday. And so many things were happening. And I was railroaded, and it just felt like I had no option. I had no option. I had no money. I couldn't sit there for another 30 days waiting for a trial over something I didn't do. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I'd rather look guilty on the outside than look innocent on the inside.
Okay. What did you learn from it, though?
I learned to keep my distance from certain people and individuals. I learned to not be as trusting. I learned that just because I'm doing well and I try to do a lot of positive things, that doesn't exclude me from the evil things that can happen. It doesn't exclude me from being attacked in vicious ways in regards to how we handle politics in our community. It's crazy. It's like you think things only happen on TV or to other people until they happen to you, and it was just the most horrible experience I've ever been. But I made it through it. You know, it did take a lot out of me when I was going through it. It was hard to function. It was hard to be creative. It was hard to get back out there in the community and do my thing. And eventually, you know, I went through the healing process. You know,
How so?
I got involved with Shepherd's Door. You know, I didn't just get counseling for myself, but I also tried to help other young men who've been in domestic violence situations.
And that was what, you had to do a full straight year, like a weekly.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And after that, I came back to help others because I had a unique perspective, you know, because there was a lot of situations that I was listening to. I'm like, wow, I wish I could have helped that person in that situation because it was way different from mine. So it just gave me a need to help and also a need to shed light on male victims of domestic violence. I don't think there's enough resources, enough literature, enough information on male victims, and definitely not enough help.
So in what we read in the report and all the other stuff, is that accurate or did something else happen?
You know what?
I mean, because you put it out there first.
Yeah,
you know
I mean, I put videos out there. It was a horrible experience, and what I did was put out my side because I don't think my side was ever told. You know, they say no contest is guilt, and that's not true. It's really fighting the system, and it wasn't just fighting the lie that I was being caught up in. It was fighting the whole system because now I'm locked up without any ability to get any evidence to put any case together, and now I have to fight it. And
were you forced to resign, or did you resign willingly?
I felt forced to resign. I
who?
felt forced by a council member and the mayor himself. He called my cell phone, and he kind of suggested that I resign. I didn't want to resign because I felt that I shouldn't have to. You know, I didn't do anything wrong, and I felt that there was no need for me to resign. You know, I did a great job on the commission, but I was threatened in a way that made me not feel safe in my own city, and I hate not feeling safe to that degree in my own city. And it was a threat of embarrassment. They said if you stay on the commission, you'll be the first commissioner that ever got voted off, and it's going to be an embarrassment for the city, and it's going to be an embarrassment for you. And I guess I didn't resign fast enough because I told them I wouldn't resign, but I ended up resigning a few days later after a swarm of smear campaigns. It was like, I call it a smear campaign. It was just a swarm of local articles that came out that just painted a horrible picture of me. And I didn't like that. And I felt threatened. I didn't feel safe because it's almost like telling the whole city that this guy's an abuser, that this guy's this and that, and he does this to women. And it's just,
Are you an abuser?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I treated that woman like a queen. I treat all women well. You know, I love my mother, love my family, love the women in my family, and I'm a very protective person. And I'm a very giving person. I think that was the most problem. It's like, for me, it's like I'm giving, and it's hard to protect myself from the people I'm trying to protect sometimes.
All right, Jason, man, we hard up on the time, brother. I appreciate you taking time and sitting down with me. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time. A lot of respect and admiration for what you're doing in the community. And I encourage you to keep going. You know, you've supported me at times, and I'll continue to support you, man. So,
thank you.
Again, you're watching The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. We got one more show coming up, and then we're going to take a hiatus, and we'll be back just after the first of the year. But until we have another opportunity to speak with you, as always, agape. The Conversation Live is brought to you by